Good morning,
Good morning.
June the 11th.
We welcome you today, Sunday, June the 11th. And our talk today is going to be very exciting because it is the core teaching that we do, which is how to do affirmative prayer. And so the title today is Affirmative Prayer, the Power of Mind. Now, we're going to be talking about the power of your mind, but this is not really the mind we're talking about here. We're talking about the power of the mind of God, which is what we use in prayer. Did you get that writing of the fellow that was complaining about?
No, but I have it all stored up here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we should start, but no, we're going to start with an affirmative prayer.
Yeah.
Our kind of prayer. So let's just go within and center ourselves in the very center of that God presence, that God mind. For we are part of it. We are one with it always. So let's know that it is in us as us, and we are it to the extent that we identify with it. And so as we know this, we know life is a gift. Life is wonderful. We have challenges here and there, but all in all, it is so wonderful to be alive on this beautiful earth. We give thanks for it. We give thanks for our abundance of everything that we need. We give thanks for the abundance of health that we experience. We give thanks for the abundance of love in our lives, of our cherished loved ones, and all that we know and associate with. So, giving thanks for this day, we say hallelujah. And we release this idea to the rest of this day and the rest of our life. So together we say,
And so it is.
So it is.
So before we got started, we picked our topic and then kind of got excited about having our conversation about it. And I got a Facebook post from someone who wanted to make it clear that his exact words were, this law of attraction stuff is bullshit.
Oh, I don't think he said that, but
he did.
he did.
Yeah,
He did.
in capital letters, bullshit. He said. So I thought, well, I'm not. I would never say that online or actively, but if I can quote somebody else having said that, I'm off the hook, right? I won't go to hell, even though we don't believe in it. So that Judith disappeared. Oh my God! Yeah. Whoa! I got to be careful what I say. Yeah. Anyway, it made me really think about it. What he was saying is that our ego mind can't make anything happen, and that's what we're working with when we try to manifest money and conditions and all of that. And it just isn't true, and that people are being hoodwinked. So, of course, what I did was I became very spiritual, and I blocked him. No, I didn't. I appreciated his point of view and his opinion, but it made me think about how easily what we teach is misunderstood. And that's really what I wanted to say.
He called it New Age.
Yeah. New Age and basic, magic, and it's
that
not
you
magic.
Create your own experience.
Yeah, he actually said that we don't create our own reality. Somebody else does. The universe does. We have nothing to do with it. We're just sort of hanging out and waiting to see what happens next. And that's a view a lot of people have, which scares them.
Because they don't want to be blamed for the mess that they're in. Yeah. They don't want to think, I created this mess.
Well, and I remember some time back when early on in my experience with our teaching, one of the things that people would often say when something bad happened is, well, what's in your consciousness? That's not what we teach. That's not what the message is. What is in your consciousness is everything that's you and everything that you've ever thought and all the ideas you've ever had. That's in your consciousness. So your consciousness is not a single thing that you decide on. Your consciousness is a collection. If you think about your education, you are not the last class you took or the first class you took. You are all of the classes that you took. You are all the things you've ever learned. And so we're a wonderful, I don't know how I want to say it, a wonderful expression of everything we've ever done and ever learned. But I wanted to talk about it in a little different way today, so and to hopefully make it clear. When you decide, and it's a decision that you get to make, it's not one that Judith agreed with, to get in the car and drive to California. But if you decide that you want to get in the car and drive to California, the vehicle that you have is available, hopefully, or you wouldn't decide to drive it. You could go to AAA, which we did in the olden days, and they'll print you out a triptych, which is to tell you how to get there and all of the steps in between. And what is basically happening is the road becomes clear, or the way becomes clear, because you've made a decision to do that. And everything that you need and everything that has to happen or wants to happen is available, and you get to pick and choose. If you don't choose to go, you don't get to go. You don't get to be there. So it's your choice in consciousness that opens all of the doors that make it possible for you to arrive where you'd like to arrive. It is not a passive process. It isn't one where you turn it over and God does the driving. Although we have automatic driving cars, you can say, I'm turning it over, which means that I'm allowing everything that's in this universe in favor of the thing that I want to see happen, operate in and through me.
So you're discussing the power of our mind.
Yes.
And its part in this process.
Right.
And also then the power, what we're going to be talking about that we used in prayer treatment, affirmative prayer, is the power of the mind of God, because that's what we're working with through our minds, right?
Right.
Okay, good. So I would like to start with quoting something that, no, you didn't. Ernest Holmes wrote about what we believe. Yeah. And it's very clear about this. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but read the part that applies to prayer. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. I'm going to pause a second here and ask whoever came in late to
please mute
yourself. Thank you. I'm going to start all over. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation.
That's important.
The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. We believe in the universal spirit, which is God, that it operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. So
I think that's it. We can end this right here.
So when we do affirmative prayer, we are calling upon the power of the mind of God to work through our minds, the minds of the recipients of the affirmative prayer. And it is, we recognize that the power is not all us. The power is God's power through us and through whoever is requesting the prayer. So that is where the power is. That is what makes it work. Not just what we've been thinking. Everything we think does not manifest, as you no doubt know.
Yeah, and
if it did, it would be in a terrible jam.
Using the analogy I was working with before is, if you decide you want to go to California, you can't close your eyes and try real hard to get there. And you can't say, well, I prayed on it and why isn't it here? It doesn't work. No, what you do is you make a decision, and you know that the universe is in favor of you and will provide you with everything that you need to have that manifest in your life, if the conditions that you are in are right for that. If, for instance, you decide you want to drive to California and the universe says yes, and you go out and you have 4 flat tires, it doesn't mean you're not going to go to California by car. It means you're going to have to fix your tires. It means the condition of the vehicle that you're going to use is not up for the trip. And a lot of times the condition that we're in is not up for the trip that we're asking to have manifest. So sometimes what manifests is the tires get fixed. They say, I don't understand this. I wanted to go someplace and all the attention has gone to something that I don't think is related. It's all related. And that's what I was saying, all of this together is connected.
The truth is, everything you experience is perfect for you right here, right now. You may not like it. It may be painful. It's still for you if you understand that We go through life with a series of ups and downs, and they're all for us and everyone else. And even our worst possible outcome that we can think of, which is the end of our life, is actually a beautiful and good thing. You just don't know it yet. And so uh, it's best not to get caught up into how many of the prayers have I done have come true or have not. It's all right for your consciousness. Your consciousness, as Bob was saying, is everything that you are spiritually, physically, mentally, and what you need right now for your highest and best. And that includes your growth. So Ernest Holmes also said, do you want to read this? Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. That's the
This
second
is
one.
Ernest Holmes. Do you want to, or you
No,
want
go
me
ahead.
to?
Go ahead.
The storehouse of nature is filled with infinite good, awaiting the touch of our awakened thought to spring forth into manifestation in our lives. So he's saying that all the good is waiting for you. It's waiting for you to come true.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have to come true to believing you can have it, believing you deserve it. And that's working on your consciousness. Consciousness meaning everything you think and believe and know.
We went to one of our favorite restaurants the other day to have lunch. And the first thing we had to do was to look at the menu and decide what it was we wanted. And once we decided what we wanted, we placed our order, and we didn't say, but maybe it's not going to come, although it did take a while. What we did is when we placed our order, everything that was everything available to make that come true started to go into motion. The kitchen was already a kitchen. The seat that we were sitting in was already there. Everything was already in place, but nothing had been ordered and nothing was going to come forward. So within about 5 to 10 minutes or so, we suddenly are surrounded with all of the food that we had ordered. How did that happen? But you couldn't have it any other way. You have to place your order, and you have to place it knowing that one can afford it. The condition of you is sufficient that when the bill comes, you can pay it. You have to be willing to say yes and sit and wait for it to occur, and not question or second guess it or get up and leave because maybe it isn't going to work.
And so while we're saying that it's God's mind, notice that also your mind is a participant
Yes.
in this process, and a very important one. And so um, Bob and I were also thinking about some wonderful examples of how powerful your mind is. It's just not as all powerful as God's mind, but the placebo is a perfect example of how powerful our minds are. When we think we're taking a medicine that can help us, it often helps us just like the medicine would, even though we're getting a sugar pill. I mean, that is a perfect illustration of how powerful our thinking is and our minds are.
It is so real and so tangible that it has to be figured into every experiment, and every bit of research is being done as the placebo. It's why they call it the placebo effect. But as recent has happened more recently, as people are beginning to look at that and say, the brain is an extraordinary pharmacy. The brain,
Exactly. It can make
the brain can duplicate something that it understands from a whole different perspective. My brain has never had any chemistry courses, but if I give it a drug, my phone just rang. I don't want to answer now. If I give it a drug, it will figure out what it's supposed to do, and it will create, however it does that, something that does the same thing. And a good example of that is years ago when I worked at the University of Rochester. We had a patient who had lupus, and it was very, very advanced lupus. And the problem with lupus is you treat it with steroids, but the more the higher the dose of steroid, the more the impact of the steroids on it, and less benefit. We were at a point where we couldn't increase the steroid use without causing more damage, and without more, she wasn't going to get better. So at the time, I was working with hypnosis and doing a lot of work with hypnosis, and I said, "Why don't we try something? We'll hypnotize her."
Was this at the University of Rochester?
Yeah. We'll hypnotize her, and we'll ask her some questions, and then we'll start a process. So anyway, the question was, what is something that tastes awful to you that you grew up with? And it was cod liver oil. And what is something that smells really good to you that always reminds you of something good? And it was her mom's Chanel No. 5. And so we said, so let's get some Chanel No. 5 and some cod liver oil. So we gave her the full dose after we were finished with the session, we gave her the full dose of cod liver oil she would have taken as a child. She had to smell the perfume. We gave her the full dose of the medication that we would normally give her for the lupus. And then what we did is we cut the dose in half and had her have the same fragrance and the same cod liver
Another
oil.
day. you
Another
mean.
day, yeah. And what happened is the body reacted exactly like it had gotten the full dose. We call it a paired experience, where you pair something up with something else, and then if you do one, you get the other. We often have a paired experience. If you listen to a piece of music and later you only have to hear one or two notes and you have all the same feelings you had the first time you ever heard it. And it just conjures that up immediately and brings it back to you. But what we had was somebody who got better, and she got better, which was totally amazing, because the brain has the capacity.
So she got better with the cod liver oil, the smell of the perfume, and a smaller dose
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
medication that
Right.
was helping. So her body created the rest?
Yes,
Okay, that's the point.
she created her own placebo. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have another example. It's one of my favorite stories, a true story, about a soldier in Vietnam who was badly injured. And, when that happens, they put all the bodies where the helicopter will be coming to take them. But they have to decide, the doctor has to decide who goes first. So he basically chooses the one who have the best chance
First,
to get out of there first.
the logic behind that is, if you save the ones that you think you can save, then you've done the right thing. If you try to save the ones you think you can't save, the ones you think you could have saved, they die. And so in this triage process, you're picking just the ones you think have the best chance first. And if they all, when you get done, then you go after the ones who you basically know aren't going to make it. But if they do, wonderful.
So the doctor was going through and to telling his staff who who to pick. And so he came to this one soldier and he said, "Moribundo, moribundo," and the person that heard it was Catholic, and he heard him speaking Latin, and so he interpreted that as a prayer for him, and he decided that meant he was going to live. So I said, "Ah," he said a prayer for me, and he noticed he wasn't saying that prayer for everybody. So he thought, I'm gonna live. Well, years later, he ran into that doctor again, and he said,
He lived, yeah.
the wounded soldier lived, and the doctor lived,
Yeah.
and they ran into each other, and he said, "I want to thank you for saving my life. I was one of those soldiers that had been wounded, and you passed by and you said a prayer for me, and I knew when I heard that prayer that I would make it." And the doctor told him, "What I said in Latin was, he's dying." And so it had been the exact opposite of what he thought the moribundo meant. It meant he's dying. He's not going first.
Right. Yeah.
But because
thought
he believed it,
he thought he had a
he
prayer.
said, I'm
Right.
I'm in good here. And so he did. He survived. So the power of our mind is great. It really is great, for what we experience. But that's not the power that we're talking about. Uh, the only power, I should say, it's not the only power we're talking about when we talk about the power of affirmative prayer. I do think it helps.
Mhm.
For example, when I was first in classes learning how to do spiritual mind treatment, I had a big motivation in that I had a son who was sick a lot. And it was serious illness. And so I was very motivated to help him heal. And I believed it was possible. And so when I would say affirmative things to him and affirmative prayers, he believed me. I'm his mother. He believed me. And I would tell him he was a strong, healthy boy. And he'd repeat back, "I'm a strong, healthy boy, huh, Mom?" And if he got sick, I'd say, "Send it away. You can do that? Okay, I'll send it away." And then of course the full prayers that I did
But I
sometimes
love you. You should tell me he's a fast healer.
I used to tell him, he was when he did get sick, say, "Well, you're a fast healer." And he'd say, "Yeah, I'm a fast healer, huh, Mom?" And later on, he moved away when he was 13 with his father, and he called me one time when he was sick, and he said, "Mom, would you say those words that you say?" Although we had taught him how to do prayer. They teach that in our junior church, but I guess he had forgotten, because there's a long time from 4 years old to 13 years old when you're a child.
But he remembered.
But he remembered that the words helped. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really
And I want to
interesting.
move it to another dimension of this too, is a lot of people will do prayer work and they get a positive result. And they immediately say, thank you, God, thank you, Jesus, thank you, whoever it is that they have prayed to. Now, gratitude is important and appreciation is important, but you need not cast yourself out of the role of having had something to do with it happening. And when I say that, when I was in practice with Judith some time back, and I had a client who regularly came in late, and she would almost always be late for her appointments. And I would say, you need to check your clock. Maybe you need to leave earlier, whatever. And she would always apologize, and she always felt bad. And then one day she came in on time, and I said, wow, this is amazing. I said, how did you do that? She, oh, thank Jesus. So I said, let's take a couple of minutes. When you do something that doesn't work, whose fault is it? Oh, it's mine. When you do something that does work, whose fault is it? Oh, it's Jesus. And I said, so you don't get credit for anything that you do that's good. And she said, I never thought of it that way. Don't give away your power. Understand you have power. And whoever you pray to, or however the process you go through has power. You're connected to and are powerful. You're connected to power and you are powerful. And so don't make yourself the weakest link in the prayer that comes true. You have something to do with that. And I say that because I hear this a lot when people any negative thing happens to them.
Yeah. So I would like to close with a quote from a wonderful author. His name is Dr. Bob Luckin. And I think you wrote this in the Science of Mind magazine
Yeah.
one time, did you? When you
Yeah.
did the daily prayers. So it's entitled, You Are the Story. You've lived the hard and soft life. You've bathed in pain and ecstasy. You've flown above the clouds and crawled into bed bone tired. You've been hungry down to your toes and gotten drunk on life's buffet. You've been sick, welcomed death, and been healed by love's tender embrace. You awaken daily to an amazing adventure story you call life. You are the author, the observer, the critic, and the lover. You're telling the greatest story ever told. So
Whew, I wrote that.
indeed it is up to all of us.
Yeah.
Indeed it is.
And there are days, and I can't even spell. I mean, wow.
And I understand the person that wrote that Facebook post. When you're unhappy with your life, you can look around and say, you're telling me I created this? I didn't want this. And so we don't want the blame, but we do like the glory when things do go well. And they do go well, starting with your decision for them to go well. So would you like to close this with
I
a
sure
closing
would.
prayer?
Yes.
Thank you.
So in consciousness, we gather the power that we have from within. We gather the energy, the love, the light, the joy, the infinite possibility. We gather that in a way that has no form and yet has a kind of body in consciousness that brings warmth and love and kindness to our heart. We open ourselves right here and right now to the infinite good that is ours to claim. We say yes to good health. We say yes to finances that are beyond anything we could have imagined. We say yes to relationships that develop and explore wonder and joy. We say yes to the things we're going to learn, however difficult, and say yes to the joy of being in the body that we're in, living the life that we're living, experiencing what it is we are experiencing. We say yes to life. We say yes to the good that is in life, and we say thank you. And we know that we have done well today, and together we say, and so it is. Okay. You know what? I didn't put up the
You did not record us, did you?